Hi, I'm Maxine Penny. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the goddess of queens. Welcome to GOQ Presents, a new voice in music, a monthly show where we explore conversations around music, culture, and what we can do to make life more inclusive. Thank you for joining today. We have two great guests, Kobi.
Hi, everybody.
And Yolan.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Today, we're going to talk about something really important. We're going to talk about the perfectionism trap and how it almost got me not to start this podcast. So I brought them here together to listen and learn about their life stories. And we hope to share some nuggets of wisdom for you to take away, marinate on, and maybe even add them to your daily life. So you two have never met until this morning. I love bringing people together. And I would love you to have a conversation today about growth mindsets and how we as individuals can make small changes to our lives that make big changes around the world. No small task there. We want to bring everyone together to understand that we all have our own perspectives. We all want the same thing: love, compassion, kindness. So why is it so hard sometimes for us to receive it or to give it? So we're going to dive right in with these fantastic guests. And I would love them to tell us a little bit about themselves and why they wanted to talk about the perfectionism trap. So Kobi, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Maxime. So my name is Kobi. I'm originally from Ghana. I came to the Netherlands when I was 11 years old with my siblings and my mom. The reason why is that my dad was a political refugee. Together with his buddy, he did try to dethrone, the Ghanaian government, which was ruled by a dictator. That didn't work out. So as a result, he fled. And in 1988, we actually arrived in the Netherlands without political asylum to rebuild and start a career here. I'm really raised in Amsterdam, or Diemen, so to say. And one of the things that I got from home is, education is very important, but also growing up in a diverse, let's say, neighborhood, intertwining with, different cultures as well. And I think that has really shaped me as an individual. And the reason why I'm here today is to share my story, but also, nowadays it looks like, everything I've done so far is very perfect, but that's not the case. It comes with ups and downs, and I'd like to share my learnings along my journey with your audience as well. So thank you for having me.
Great. I can't wait to hear them. We're going to talk a little bit later also about your purpose in life. So I'll keep that in mind. Thanks for your introduction. Yolan.
Yeah, nice to meet everybody. My name is Yolan. I come from Zaandam, a small neighboring town to Amsterdam. 35 years old. I'm a freelance strategist at the moment and a dad living in Amsterdam. Super happy about that. Grew up in Zaandam in between two of the worst districts, basically, in Zaandam or in the Netherlands. Very diverse neighborhood and school. It was funny because I was always, as a Dutch Surinamese guy, I was always the one that was a little bit different in my school, especially high school. I was one of the 3 people that weren't white. So that gave me a sort of a nickname there. And I'm really happy to talk about the perfectionism trap because that's something that I need to be mindful every day, to be honest. I noticed that it's there in my work, in friendships, relationships, my fatherhood, sports, basically everywhere I go. I just want the best, not just for myself, but also for the people around me. And that can be quite difficult to handle sometimes. So happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Well, we learned what a strategist was earlier, didn't we, Kobi? Maybe we could have some strategic guidance during this conversation. But I'm interested, when did you first realize, maybe when you noticed that there was a perfectionism trap in your ether?
For me, it was during high school. It's actually, I think, a funny anecdote. I think I was 13 and one of my mentors asked me to come up for an additional class. I didn't know what it was about with other people. And then when we were in the classroom, they explained that it was for people who they thought were perfectionists. I didn't realize what it was. I didn't think I had it. I thought And the funny thing is, I thought the class wasn't good enough, so I left. I think that should have said it all. That I'm a perfectionist. Yeah. So that was the first time it came up.
And Kobi?
Yeah, and I think for me it was when I was growing up as the oldest of my sisters. There was an emphasis that placed on me to do everything perfect and be an example for my siblings. So that really is something that always stood out to me. Wanted to be the best, wanted to be, make sure that my sister had a good example. So that's how I think for me it started.
Yeah, I mean, I also grew up in quite a big family and we were quite religious. So it was like you had to perform to be the best, and that's, it's a great thing sometimes because it really gave us our morals, the way that we held ourselves, the way that we dressed. But sometimes in adult life, it can become a little bit harder when other people around you, for instance, may not have had the same upbringing. What are your thoughts on that? Like, what are the symptoms and signs that you're a perfectionist?
I think always trying to get the best out of something, and being persistent in your approach. I think those are signs. I see it, for example, with my younger son. He plays football, and he's actually doing an internship with ICE right now. And if something doesn't work out, I can see he can get frustrated because he really wants it to work. And I always talk to him about when you're frustrated, it doesn't get you the best out of yourself, right? So learning this already at this age, because he's 6, is something that I'm aware of, and then obviously I need to communicate with him and to talk about, hey, it's just practice. Practice makes perfect, and it's a journey. You cannot do it always in first instance in the right way. But I also believe my parents also really, especially growing up in Ghana, you needed to be the best. You needed to be top 3. So my school card, my report card, I was always top 3. There was no dropping out of that. And my parents really instilled that in me. So I think for me, knowing that I always had to perform at a high level or always put my best foot forward gave me an indication, not at a younger age, but later in life, that hey, there was an element of want to do things perfectly. At least that's how I'll answer that question.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that as well. For me, I think some part is it's nature. So I'm really hardwired. I think it's in my character to just compete with myself and just try to find out what the maximum Yolan could do, basically. That's part of the nature thing. I'm very curious, and I always want to know the next thing, for instance, and yeah. So I think that's a part of it, but it's also definitely nurture because I was in a environment that I didn't feel comfortable in. I was different, so I think it also gave people didn't think I could do it because I was different or my language wasn't on par with the rest. So it always gave me a little bit of like an extra motivation to become better or to get the most out of it. And that helped me a lot because I mean, I progressed in life where I wanted to go. But on the other end, it's also had their downsides, right? So I think it's both nature and nurture. I don't know how that is for you, Kobi. Is that also a nature nurture thing?
Yeah, I believe so. Obviously, your environment plays a very important role, right? So, obviously, when growing up, your parents instill some values in you. And in our case, coming in a different country where predominantly of the population was white, because I grew up in Ghana in my first 11 years, everybody was, let's say, black. So, no difference. And now you are in a different environment where you are the odd one or the outsider. And my parents also used to say, hey, you need to be the best because, and very simple, and I find it ironic that I'm also in talent acquisition. My mom said, if they have to choose between you and a white individual, they will probably choose the white individual, unless you give them a reason to consider you, right? And the reason in this case was, educated, good grades, showing that you were the best or top three. So I would say it's also a little bit about the environment, or what at least my parents instilled in me, wanted to be the best, because my mom, at least my mom and dad, were highly educated, but in a different country. They didn't speak their language in the first couple of years, so they needed to adjust, taking lower income jobs to be able to provide for the family. So they really pushed that envelope and make sure that we, did our best, especially in school, and make sure that we were, like I said, top three.
That's so interesting, because I was going to ask if it was cultural. So, my mum said the same thing. You have to prove yourself 110%, work really hard, because you might not be given opportunities the same as other people. So I was going to ask as well, like, what are the benefits of this actually? What, there is a downside, but what are the benefits?
The benefits. Well, I think it's a difficult one, and I can maybe give this example. So I have kids, right? And I'm teaching my kids now, who are privileged in the way that they are growing up. And I have a wife who grew up saying, "Hey, just do the best you can." And I grew up, you need to be the best. So you need to find the balance where they understand, how do they push their own boundaries? How do they not get too comfortable? Plus, how do we make sure that, the environment they grow up in, at least I'm very conscious of that, is diverse, so they can see different things, right? So I think from a culture perspective, our parents instilling that element into us, and me growing up in a family, or at least me raising kids up in those two different worlds. How do you blend that in, and how do you find the right blend? It's always a challenge. But what I've learned is that I'm always communicating with my missus, that's how I call her, to make sure that we align, because we cannot be given different messages as well. So that's how we try to do it.
Yeah, communication is key. Yolan?
Yeah, I definitely think there are some positives on being brought up like this, or experiencing this. I think one, it builds character. I really like also, and attracted to people who want the best out of life, the best out of themselves. And that's just not just on the KPI of income, for instance, but I really just like also athletes that just try to achieve the best thing that they can achieve. So I think there are definitely some positives in there.
I mean, if you're trying to start anything new, you have to put in that time. Sometimes you do have to be a perfectionist to, like, I used to look back, and some things I'm really good at, but other things that I'm not so good at, maybe I would give up a little bit easy, but then I'd go back to it. And you have to put in that time to sort of realize that, you can try something new. So I think that's really important as well.
Yeah. And to add on that, I think a character trait is that you become persistent, right? That you don't quit too easily, and that helps you if you're that persistent, and it helps you to build things over time. Yeah.
And maybe the downside is that you also have to let some things go, right? As an athlete, when I was growing up, there was a lot of school parties and parties that I didn't attend because I had a game the next day. So you have to also sacrifice something, in your pursuit to greatness, or in your pursuit to achieve something. So I think that could be a downside, right? But yeah, I think that's also a very important element to understand that, yeah, you cannot do everything all the time. You have to give up something to be able to, be dedicated in a certain direction that you want to head.
That is super important. I'm actually just learning that now, because I'm focusing on music and changing my career. I've had a very diverse background, so it's really important that sometimes you can't go to those brunches or those lunches or those dinners because you actually are focusing on work. But it's not a loss if you are then being able to have an end product at the end. It's priorities and choice and choosing what you need.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah,
for sure.
Great. So actually, talking about perfectionism, I have a little exercise for you both. It is about finding your life's purpose? I don't know if you've ever did this. I don't know if you've ever asked yourself this question, but I watched a TED Talk with Adam Leipzig. If you haven't seen it, watch it. And he basically asked 5 questions. So if you're at home, you can grab a piece of paper to write these 5 things down. And at the end, it should reveal what your life purpose is. So it's really simple. You ask, what is your name? What do you love to do? So that could be anything, teach, design. What's the one thing you feel supremely qualified to teach other people? Or it could be talking. You love talking to other people. Who do you do it for? You can picture them in your mind. You don't have to say it out loud. What do these people need or want? Why do they come to you? What do they need? And how do they change as a result of what you've given them? Now, I thought my life purpose was connected very much to my work. And then I realized after I did this exercise that it was bringing people together, helping people make understood. And that's kind of been a red line throughout my whole life and career. So I don't know what your idea of a life purpose was, Kobi.
I did a similar exercise, I would say 6 years ago. And for me, it was eye-opening. And the reason why it was eye-opening is that similar to what you mentioned, you want to progress your career, and you were doing a lot of different things. But, when I identify and find my purpose, everything that I do is pretty much aligned with that, right? So my purpose in life is to make sure that I can inspire other people who are willing to help others. And by doing that, I would like to create equality in the world. And it's a saying that, the African have. I didn't know about this till 5-6 years ago. Each one teach one, right? And it has a little bit to do also with, how I was able to navigate my career or, my journey. It came with obstacles, right? So how do I make sure I share those insights around my journey to pave the way forward to help others create an easier path, right? So that is my purpose. I live and die by that. And everything I do is simultaneously linked to that. And as a result of that, if it's not aligned with my purpose, it's okay, to not do it. And I'll also say one more thing is that we grow up always looking for validation from others. And I've also learned that it's not always important to look for validation, right? So if you have found your purpose, then you validate things yourself. So that's how I would, let's say, explain my purpose. And I hope, everybody who engages with me find something out of that to help other people. And then, we pave the way forward that way.
Amazing. Yeah, staying aligned with your life's purpose once you find it. I mean, the validation is a very important point. I think early in my career, I really needed validation from my superiors. And then I found out that actually I can validate myself. I don't have to wait for someone's approval to do something. As long as I feel like I'm doing the right thing, then, I can go ahead.
Is that because you feel like an imposter?
Good question. I mean, I didn't feel like an imposter for a long time. I sort of was always curious about what I can do next. I started off as an executive assistant, and I felt like after, it got me to a certain point, it wasn't what I wanted to do anymore. And then I moved to the Netherlands and I moved into HR. And that's where my journey in diversity, equity, and inclusion started, because we did an unconscious bias test. And I was unconsciously biased towards, young Black boys in London. And that is because, of media experiences and those things. But it shocked me to my core that I didn't know myself or my background a lot, because I also grew up in a town where I was the only girl of color, or only person of color. We were one of the only families in our neighborhood. And so, it sort of brought me back to myself and started me on this journey of awareness. And it wasn't until, again, later on in my career that I started to feel like the imposter syndrome and, sort of things that had happened, microaggressions and things like that. I was like, oh, I've worked very hard to get where I am, but that's not reflective in my career sometimes. I don't know if that answered your question.
No, it's super interesting, I think.
But, going back to kind of finding out who I was and how I got there, it was that, like I said, my life purpose is bringing people together. And I noticed that in each company or each career that I'd chosen, because I've been a recruiter, I worked in PR for a little bit. I have my own company. It's all about bringing people together and helping people be understood, and people that have been in the position where no one's going to help you, but, I'm willing to send that email. I'm willing to be your cheerleader. I'm willing to be your mentor, and I'm willing to help someone the way that I would have liked to have been helped early in my career. I mean, how does it tie into your life right now? What's your life purpose? Did you write it down, Yolan?
Yes. Well, although I'm a strategist and this is what I'm supposed to be really good at, I definitely struggle to frame this for myself always. I really like Kobi's answer as well, like the inspiring part I really like. I also wrote something like that down. So for me, it's about inspiring people to progress and eventually be happy, because what I really like is to solve problems and help people to make a next step or move forward in life or in their business. And we all know that feeling that when you're stuck and you feel like there's more for you to give, right? There's more potential. There's so much more that you can do. And sometimes you just need a helping hand. As a friend, sometimes you need just the right words or just a little bit of motivation from your friends, saying that you're good enough, that you're not an imposter, that you are talented. But also in work, in businesses, I think seeing the beauty in things and then scaling that and showing people how it's done and how they can progress, I think that makes me happy because they're, I think, happier as well. So inspiring people to progress and be happy is, I think, my life purpose in different ways, musically, or through music, or through events, or through my work as a strategist. I think that sums it up.
Yeah, I mean, we need that strategy, but we also need community. And I love what Kobi said. You told me that before about each one teach one, bringing our community together with us. And in a way, that's what we're all doing, collaborating and bringing each other together.
Yeah, and maybe just to add, it's every time I see my brothers and sisters at an event, I'm just genuinely just happy for them, and I know they're one phone call away, vice versa. And to be honest, I think you mentioned it, Yolan, is that it gives you a good feeling that a big brother or a big sister can be there for me, and vice versa. I can be a big brother or a big big sister to somebody else. So that's a great feeling to see others also progress and do well, generally speaking.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of that, and I think that's what gets me out of bed every day. And anybody who engages with me, and can get a little bit of that, I think can help others as well. So I'm like, my mom told me once, you're destined to be great. She told me that like 15 years ago. I have no clue what she meant with that. And I can see now, the impact that I'm having with the things that I do. Yeah, I can say, I'm destined to be great. So that's a good thing.
That's amazing that your mom is so supportive and helps you build that trust.
Yeah, maybe just another quick story, right? So my mom is very religious. She sent me a text message last week Friday at 7:05, and that message was very encouraging, right? So, and then I always ask her, "Hey, Mom, why did you send me this message?" And she said, "Well, I think you have something important today." I said, "Okay, very interesting. You are right. I'm speaking in front of 350 people within the company at 9:00, right? And I've been 6 months with the company. So doing something like this at this big audience, I didn't tell my mom that, right? But she felt that some shape or form and sent me the message. So when I told her, she's like, "That's why I'm sending you that message."
Moms are awesome.
That is beautiful. Yeah, exactly.
And I really believe that if your parents instill that confidence in you, it helps you a lot in life, actually. And to get back to the original topic, I think that's what it's all about, right? Helping people, bringing people together. That's what makes us humans, I guess. So I think that's super, super important to do.
It's true. I would love to ask, though, any obstacles on the way and how did you manage them? It's a big question, but
Yeah.
is there anything you can think of?
Yeah. Well, I can definitely share a few things. It was only obstacles in hindsight. So when I was going through it, I didn't see it as an obstacle because I'm an optimist individual. But I have dealt with microaggression in the past. I have dealt with people who, because I got a promotion, thought that they deserved that promotion, right? And created a toxic environment around me. I have, worked for companies where, based on my performance or based on a promotion, I was supposed to get a certain percentage of increase without even asking. But then they lowball you, thinking that you really want that opportunity, and I'm not going to ask for anything else. So I've throughout my career, I've experienced a lot of different things that were obstacles. But I can only truly say that that's when I realized, let's say, years back. And I like to give your audience this message as well. Decisions around your career are made when you're not in the room. Okay. I've now been fortunate enough to be in those rooms where I'm also impacting other people's career and decision. So think about what are people actually saying when you're not in the room, right? Yeah, when I see Kobe in the corridor, he's a nice guy. But when I can have to make an appraisal or give input about him, am I saying he's a nice guy? Am I saying he's adding value to our company, right? So people need to think about the discussions that are happening when they are not in the room. So I'd like to give your audience that.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yeah.
That's a good tip, actually. For me, obstacles, there are a few, but I think they're mostly emotional obstacles. In if we're talking about the theme of perfectionism, I think the biggest one for me is that it just like you don't want to disappoint. That's the most important thing. Don't want to disappoint yourself, but also definitely, and that is I think the trap for me. Also, don't want to disappoint others. And that's a horrible feeling because then you want to disappear. So I had to work on that as well, because that saps energy, right? If you're constantly thinking about others and how to please them, how to be perfect, how to deliver the best, and probably they think it's already good, but for you there's no ceiling to what you can deliver upon. So that's definitely a trap that I needed to work on. And luckily, friends, my partner, but also a coach that helped me. That was very helpful to at least become conscious of that, and then you can do something about it. And lastly, I also went. This is a bit of a tangent, but it really helped. I went to do Vipassana. I don't know if you know what it is. That is a 10-day silent retreat. Super interesting. It was one of the harder things I did in my life, but very valuable. And then you also see at a sudden moment, at least for me, I really saw what made me like a perfectionist and why I wanted to be always the best and why it was a negative thing for me. And seeing that, basically that core memory that drove it all, it helped me to then know what I shouldn't do. And when I was feeling like that moment in time when I was a kid, when that core memory happened. So that was very interesting to become conscious of as well.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Using spirituality, a practice, a therapist, or asking your community and your friends and family around you for support is very important, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And talking about community, and this podcast is about music and bringing people together through music. I have a few music questions for you. So in what ways has music impacted your life?
In a big way. I think music for me is super integrated into my life. Remember from when I was a kid, I was just sitting in front of the speaker for an hour when my mom was playing their old Motown music. But also a couple of moments in my life after that, I really just stick to me. For instance, when I discovered the Late Night Lick with Trevor Nelson when I was 13, hearing things for the first time like Grindin from Clips, or discovering Dance Hall with Sean Paul with Give Me the Light. Those are really things that I think instigated the next phase of my life, up until like moments that I heard Frank Ocean for the first time. Thinking About You, that really hit a nerve. So I don't know. For me, it's very integrated into my life. I constantly walk around with headphones and just play music throughout the day. How is that for you, Kobi?
Well, man, this is a great question. And I think that's why I'm very passionate about, us even doing this podcast. I'm a big music fanatic. My dad, I grew up in a household where my dad was always playing music. He was Motown guy, so James Brown, those were the tunes that I heard like hours and hours and hours. At the moment, everything that we do is around music in my house. So we wake up with music, and I'm not promoting any brands here, but there's a brand, that it's alarm clock. So my daughter's alarm goes at 7, mine is 7:15, and then my boys is 7:30, and everybody wakes up with music in a different genre to get them up. At how we always blaze music. You should be connected with me on Instagram. You see me and my kids doing crazy thing with music. We dance. My daughter's very creative, so she does Afro, ballet, and also urban dance. In the car, we are doing music. I go to festivals. I was late to the game with festivals, but love different genres of music as well. And my favorite artist is Busta Rhymes. How he is, the energy that he gives. So I love him.
That's amazing. I love that. I want to be in your household. I mean, my parents used to wake us up with music, and I used to hate it at the time. My mum used to blare music on a Saturday morning when she was cleaning. And we'd be like, Mum! But now, if I look back again in hindsight, that education of music and different genres as well is really amazing. But Yolan, you worked in music as well, right?
As well. Yeah,
how's music affecting your mood? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so you're right. I worked in music, or at least at MTV and TMF, for the ones that still know TMF, the Music Factory, and for VH1 as well. And after that, I went to Excite, which was basically the local music broadcaster on television, and did some events as well. So that was really fun. And I forgot your question. Tell me.
Well, just, you're so involved in music. How does it affect your mood, your emotions,
It helps me to regulate my mood, actually. So my brain, there's always this, I don't know, I don't hope this is weird, but there's also like always a second voice in my head while I'm doing things, that constantly is asking or saying stuff. This feels really like I'm schizophrenic, but it's
most people have an inner voice.
Inner voice, yeah. So it helps to calm that down, and just helps me to focus on what I'm doing, and also just takes out the negativity sometimes in that's going on in my head, or anxieties. So it really helps me to do that. And basically, it's just I have a soundtrack for almost everything in life. So when it's rainy in the Netherlands, like it always is, I just pump up the music, and it feels like warm and happy, and that's what keeps me positive throughout the day. So
amazing.
That's how it is.
Kobi, is there any song that's impacted your life, or a genre that makes you feel a certain way? Tell me about music that holds special meaning to you.
Yeah, I think it's I forgot the name of the track, but every time I hear a track around moms, or somebody speaking about their moms in the music, I always get emotional. And I think the key reason why is that my mom had 3 jobs, when we were growing up. So the hard work that she put to make sure that we had food and clothing. Anytime I hear a song around moms, it gives me a great appreciation for my mom as well. So that's something that's always has a, how to call it, like a snare. When I hear that, I'm always thinking about my mom and, what she did. My dad did also a lot of things, but, my mom 100%, held the family down, I would say.
That's beautiful.
Amazing. Yeah, beautiful. I can't think of a song right now. There's so many songs in my head, but I know that a feeling that I have, like, especially now I live in Amsterdam, there's some moments where you cycle across the canal and it could be very quiet, could be late at night, and it's just very calm. And I feel like music is the soundtrack to my life. You know, if anyone could hear me or see me at that moment, they'll probably be like, what's she doing? But I really feel that emotion, like, wow, like life can be great when you're listening to music. You know, you can feel sad, you can feel happy, you can feel your feels, basically, and that's also a very beautiful place to be.
That and if I can add to that, what I really like about it as well, it brings us in this communal experience, right? So there, if you hear it together, you're just in the moment together. I think that's very special, and you're like all synced. And that is super interesting about music as well.
Especially at festivals or, you know, even clubs, you know, people come together for community. They come to release their emotions and be together. You know, people don't understand why people go out sometimes, but I think it's your own tribe, and you can have that particular type of freedom through music.
Absolutely.
Is there any film or music video that you think people should watch that has made an impact on you?
Oh, that's a good one. I don't know if people should watch.
Yeah.
But for me, it's The Sound of Music. I've watched that at least 50 times. And obviously it had that military element into that, a family, you know, growing up with a nanny, the energy, you know, so that really resonates with me. And I also have something, you know, every time I'm with my sisters and that there's a song or we talk about, we all go back to growing up, cuddling, watching that and the feeling it gave us, also how it ended. So yeah, for me, you wouldn't expect that, but The Sound of Music.
I love that. The hills are alive. I won't start singing.
Please do. Let's end on that in a minute.
My singing lessons are really kicking in. Shout out to my singing teacher, Toz.
I don't brought a music video or a movie with me. It is a video about music. It's a talk between Rick Rubin and Andre 3000. They also talk about the perfectionist trap. Andre is talking about being creatively stuck because he feels basically the expectations of the outside world that he's supposed to be this really good rapper, and he just blocks up completely. And then Rick Rubin tells him that he just needs to go where he feels the flow, even if it's not rap. And I don't know if you guys heard Andre 3000's latest album. He doesn't rap at all. It's just on a electric flute. He's making very interesting, cool music for 15 minutes long for one track. So I really like knowing that journey of him, that he struggles so much and now he's finding a new voice, he's finding a new flow, and then seeing the outcome that he doesn't produce a rap album at all, but just some interesting, weird electric flute album. So that's an amazing episode to watch.
Yeah, I'm going to watch that actually because I really wanted. I've been hearing about it and looking, you know, at things coming past on Instagram, and I'm really intrigued about his journey.
Yeah.
Because I saw in an interview also that he didn't realize that he was that big. You know, they didn't realize that they'd made such an impact on the world, which, you know, slightly goes back into that imposter syndrome. Like, you know, they're being creative, they're doing amazing things, people around the world are listening. And then you speak to an artist and they're like, nah, we're not that much, you know. And now seeing him come back and you know, creating an album with no bars. So that's definitely on my top list.
It's amazing.
Right. We have had such a great conversation. I love the fact that you've had this conversation with me today. I would love to give the audience your top 3 tips. So it can be about music or anything that's made a difference in your life. What would be your top 3 tips to anyone listening today? Kobi?
Well, I would say get a mentor. I think it's very important. You know, you get so much out of it. The second one is be curious and read. I've just been doing it the last 8 years, and I'm learning so much more that I didn't, know in the past. And then the last one would be, try and find your purpose. Like you said, the TED Talk, but also, Simon Sinek, find your why, start with your why. Those are great starting points to start your journey in finding your purpose.
Thank you for sharing. I love those. I will try to put those into my daily life. Yolan?
The three for me are, the first one is a learning basically from my journey, that persistently working towards improvement is more valuable than achieving perfection on the first attempt. So just be consistent in trying to achieve the best and not expect too much from yourself at the first go. The second one for me is, at least, and for a lot of my friends that I see, is that we're reevaluating our objectives. Make sure you're also doing things that you want to do just for your own enjoyment and not just with additional quantifiable targets. And the last one, listen to Andre 3000's latest album. I think it's amazing, especially if in the theme of this podcast, it really rings true and may help you find your way.
Thank you so much for sharing with us. And I was going to add that the time is now. Take action, believe in yourself, and trust that you can make a change. Don't let the perfectionism trap take you over, and to try things and be curious and be new. So again, thank you so much for joining. And we're looking forward to seeing you next month for more conversations. Join us now to build communities around the world and share our passion for music and inclusion. And don't forget, if you understand yourself, you understand the world.
Thanks so much, Maxine.
Thank you.
Bye.